Hello, in today's video we're going to be making this Pokeball and also the little Pikachu that's inside. And I'm going to show you how to make both the Pokeball and the Pikachu, and let's get started with what materials we'll need. All the colors of yarn we're going to need are yellow, black, red, white, and a little bit of brown. Safety eyes, little gemstones that are going to be placed on the cheeks, E6000 to glue the little sparkles on, and then I just have a toothpick to help put the glue and place the cheeks a little easier. The final items are a pair of scissors, a stitch marker, a 3.25mm crochet hook, yarn needle, and a little bit of polyfill, or this project with the Pikachu, it's small enough that you can just use extra yarn in order to stuff the project. We're first going to start with the Pokeball, and the part we're starting with first is the top part, so we're going to go ahead and grab our red yarn. So we'll take our red yarn and we'll start off making our magic ring. And how I make mine is I just place the yarn over my index and middle finger, bring the yarn around and cross it over, and then have it parallel on top. I take my hook, go under the first loop, turn, bring the hook under the yarn that's crossed, come on top, take the second loop and just pull it through, and then I have my magic ring. So we'll go ahead and our next part we'll get started putting 6 single crochet into the magic ring. We'll start with crocheting 6 into our magic ring for round 1. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're now going to pull this tail closed, but we don't want to pull it super tight, otherwise it gets hard to get into that first stitch, and we can pull it tighter as we go, but we'll just leave it where it's closed but not really super tight. In our second round we're going to increase. We're going to place 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around until we have 12 single crochets in our round. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, and I'm now going to start crocheting over my little tail just to secure that. 10 and 12. And so that will complete round 2, and now we can pull this nice and tight and just get that little hole all closed up. And so that is round 2, and we're now at 12 single crochets all the way around. I've added in my stitch marker for the third round, and this will also be an increase round, and this will be increasing from 12 stitches to 18. So our pattern will start off with 2 single crochet in our first stitch and a single crochet in our second stitch. And that's the pattern we're going to do all the way around. So we'll do an increase and then a single crochet, an increase, and then a single crochet. And that'll get us from 12 to 18. Okay, got an increase, single crochet, our final increase, and final single crochet. And now we're at 18 stitches all the way around, and we'll increase to 24 in our next round. We're now ready to start our 4th round, and we're going to increase to 24. So our pattern for increasing from 18 stitches to 24 will be to increase in our first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And that was an increase followed by a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And we'll just work that all the way around. So we've got our increase and a single crochet in the next 2. So the patterns aren't hard, it's just it takes a little bit longer each time as our work starts to increase in size. So we've got our increase, whoops, single crochet, single crochet, our final increase, and then we've got our 2 single crochets, and we're up to 24 stitches, and next we'll increase to 30. We're ready to increase to 30 stitches, and again a simple pattern. We'll just go ahead and increase in our first stitch and then a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So I'll go over that pattern again. We'll go ahead and increase and then a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And then our total rows that we're going to increase to, it becomes a final end count of 42 stitches. So we've got a couple more increase rows. Okay, we're coming on the home stretch. So we've got our increase, 3 single crochet, our final increase, and our last 3 single crochet, and that will bring us up to 30 stitches, and in our next round we'll be going up to 36. We're ready for 36 single crochets, so our increase will be in the first stitch followed by a single crochet in the next 4 stitches. And that pattern was to increase and then a single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And then in our next round will be our final increase for the top of the Pokeball. Okay, we've got our increase. And 1, oops, I actually made a mistake right there. There we go. I slipped off some of the yarn. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Let me grab some more yarn. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, our final increase, and then our last 4 stitches. Okay, we are at 36 stitches, And next we're going to move up to 42. We're on our final increase round and we're going to move up to 42 stitches. Our pattern is to increase in our first stitch and then single crochet 1 into the next 5 stitches. There's 3, 4, 5, and again that pattern is to increase in our first stitch and then single crochet 1 into the next 5 stitches. 4 and 5. Increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got our increase, and if you knew how many times I have restarted this row, you would be amazed. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got our increase. Yeah, for such a simple pattern, I think I have made a total of 4 mistakes. So this is about the 5th time I've tried to complete this row. Okay. And then we've got our increase. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, how about the stitch marker, and 5. Okay, got through it. So we're all done with our increases, and now we're going to just be doing single crochets all the way around for 6 rows. So we'll start that next. Okay, we're going to do just a single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and we do this for about 6 rows. And then on our 6th row, we will stop about 5 stitches from our stitch marker, and that's where we're going to start prepping for the color change to black. But for this first row, we'll go ahead and work this one together. And then what we'll do is have you keep going for the next 5 rounds, stopping 5 stitches short of your stitch marker. And then we'll work through the color change together. And as you go, just doing the single crochet all the way around, you're going to notice that your work starts to turn in and become more bowl shape, and that's perfect. That's what we want. That way it gives it that round shape for the top of the Pokeball. So we'll just go ahead and get this, and then I am also going to try to fix, after this row, my lighting, because I see that the sun has come out and is starting to add additional light onto my workspace. Okay, so we're coming around, and again I will have you work through the next 5 rows on your own, and we'll meet back about 5 stitches before the end of the row and work on that color change, which will be changing to black. So we'll have our black ready to start the final round of the top of the Pokeball. Okay, so we are at almost at the very end of row 13, and we've stopped about 5 stitches from the end. And what we're going to do is we're going to just take our black yarn and just kind of bring it alongside, and for the first 4 remaining stitches we're just going to crochet over the black yarn. There's 4. And then I'm going to take out my stitch marker. And this is just how I do color changes, so you can do the color change however you want. But what we'll do is in the final stitch, I'll go in, pull the yarn through, and then I will take the black yarn and finish the stitch. And then for our final round for the top of the Pokeball, we're just going to crochet 1 in each stitch with the black yarn. And this is going to give it that black dividing line that the Pokeballs have between the top and the bottom. So we'll just go ahead and crochet 1 in each of the 42 stitches all the way around. And we are doing awesome getting this far because we've already got basically half of the Pokeball taken care of. And then when we work on the bottom, it's real simple because there's no color changes. It's just all in the white. And the white I'm using isn't the white I was hoping to use, but I realized I didn't have enough left to use a really normal bright white, so this is a little bit of an off-white, but not too bad. It still works really well. Okay, I'm gonna just cut off, oops, oh, there we go, cut off that red yarn because I won't need that any longer. And just keep going around the edge. And then I can just take my yarn needle and or just crochet over these tails. And I just kind of get them out of the way, which I think I'll just do. Kind of secure them and keep them from flopping around. Okay, almost done. And I think I got most of the sunlight hidden away. There's still a little bit coming through from the blinds, but not nearly as distracting or as bad. Okay, so we've got, oops, kind of got that stuck. Just a few more single crochets, and then we will be all done with the top of the Pokeball. So here's our last stitch, and then I'm just going to slip stitch. Cut off a bit of tail, and then I will take my yarn needle and just kind of come in right through here underneath this black yarn, and just kind of go right through and just pull that just to kind of secure it in place. And then once we're done with the bottom, we're going to do the button, and the button just goes right over this little change area, so it keeps everything nice and clean. So we've done a great job. We've got the top done. Let's keep going, and we'll start with the bottom, and we'll get our white yarn ready, and we'll do that next. Here we are. We've got our white yarn, and we're getting ready to do the bottom half of the Pokeball. So let's get started with our magic ring. And again, I'll do this slowly so you can see how I make my magic ring. And then again, we're going to start off crocheting 6 single crochet into our magic ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we'll pull our tail, but not too tight, because we can always pull it a little tighter after the next round. And now we have 6 single crochets in our first round, and next we're going to increase to 12. So let's increase to 12 stitches, and we're going to start with our first stitch and increase. And it's not really a pattern for this first round, we're just going to increase in each of the 6 stitches. And I'm going to crochet over my tail just to kind of secure that in place. And we'll be doing a few more increase rounds. The most we're going to increase up to is 36. So we'll stop increasing 1 row short of our Pokeball top. Okay, we've got our 12 single crochet, and then in our next round we'll move up to 18. Okay, we're ready to start our pattern to increase from 12 stitches to 18, and what we'll do is we'll increase in our first stitch and then single crochet in the second, and we'll just work that pattern all the way around. So that's an increase and a single crochet. Let me just get that back on there. And almost done. We've got our increase, single crochet, our final increase, and final single crochet, and now we are up to 18 stitches. I'm just gonna take my scissors and just trim that little extra off. And next we'll go from 18 to 24. Okay, so our pattern for increasing from 18 to 24 is an increase in our first stitch and then a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And so that was an increase in our first stitch and then a single crochet in the next 2. And then we've got our increase, 2 single crochet, and our final increase, and last 2 single crochet. And now we are up to 24 stitches, and we'll be going to 30, and then our final increase will be for 36. Okay, we are making some great progress. So our increase will be from 24 stitches up to 30, and we do that by increasing in our first stitch and then single crocheting 1 into the next 3. And that pattern was an increase followed by 3 single crochets. We've got our increase, 1, 2, 3. Grab some more yarn. There's an increase, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, final increase. There's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, finally down to our last increase for the Pokeball, for the bottom of the Pokeball, and we will be going from 30 stitches up to 36. So let's get through our final increase, and then we'll be on our home stretch. The rest of it's really easy. So we're going from 30 stitches up to 36, and our pattern is to increase in the first stitch and single crochet 1 in the next 4 stitches. So we've got our increase, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and again that's an increase, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, really easy patterns. It's just takes a little longer each time because our project just gets wider and wider. So we've got an increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, final increase, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. So we are all done with our increases for the bottom of the Pokeball, and the next 6 rows. Oh, I'm so sorry. Nope, that was my mistake. I was looking at the top part. I'm sorry. The next 15 rows are all going to be just single crocheting all the way around. And so we do that for 15 rows. I will do the first row with you, and then after that we'll meet back after the following 14 are done. Okay, I've got my stitch marker in place, and we are now going to crochet 1 in each of the 36 stitches. And we're going to do that together for the first round. And then I'm going to have you crochet the last 14 rounds on your own, and then just finish off with a slip stitch, because that's, whoops, got the camera going crazy, because that's all that's going to need to be done for the bottom of it. And then once you put the top part on, you'll see how it kind of just sits over, and then the top part meets about halfway to kind of give it that Pokeball look. It's not perfect Pokeball, but it sits really nicely if you have it on a shelf, and it's just kind of a, nah, it's not perfect, but it works, and kids like it. So we've got pretty much through our first round together. And so this is a great time to put on some videos or some music and just kind of zone out for 14 rounds of crocheting 36 single crochet. I am really caught up in the stuff going on with Chris Watts, so I've been watching a lot of the internet drama about what's going on with him. I really enjoy true crime, so anytime one of the major cases has some stuff going on, I really like to catch up and see what's in the news. So I'll be doing that for my next 14 rounds, just watching some true crime YouTube. So there we go. We're in our final stitch, and we'll go ahead and do 14 more rounds and finish off with a slip stitch, and that'll be everything it takes for the bottom of the Pokeball. So we've got the Pokeball bottom all done, And what I did was I just took my remaining tail after my slip stitch and just put it in through the stitches like I did with the top. And as you can see, when you're putting it down, it kind of meets halfway, so it's half white, half red with the black line dividing the top and the bottom. And the next thing we're going to do, and this is pretty quick and easy, is just the little button that goes right over the top. So we're just going to need to get our white yarn again, and then we can work on just making the button. So with the button, what we're going to do is we're going to take our white yarn, but we're also going to take some black yarn and split it in half. And I think I've got about 36 inches of length in black yarn, and then I just pulled it apart until it's just half the thickness. And we do that to kind of give a thinner edge to the button of the Pokeball. But what we'll do is we'll start off with our white yarn, and then we're just going to make our magic ring. And then crochet 6 into our magic ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll pull that, and then we'll do one more round where we'll increase to 12 stitches, and before the end of that round we are going to get ready for a color change to black, but right now we're done with the first round of 6 stitches. So I'm ready to increase from 6 stitches to 12, and I have my thin black yarn ready for the color change. And so what we'll do is we will increase in the first 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and I think I'm going to just put a little bit of my yarn tail and kind of get that weaved in and secured. 4, 5, 6. Okay, now I'm just going to pull that a little tighter, and then I'm going to start getting my yarn ready. My black yarn ready for the color change. So I'm going to do 7. That was 7 and 8. We got 9, 10, and then we'll do 11, and then in the 12th stitch is where we'll get ready to do our color change. And how I'm going to do that is I'll insert, pull the white through, but instead of pulling the white through to complete the stitch, I'll pull the black. And then what we'll do is we will just single crochet 1 in each of those 12 stitches. I'm just going to bring my tail over and crochet over that as well. So we'll just crochet, whoops, let's get in there, all the way around. And the reason why there is so much tail left over is because we'll use that remaining black tail to sew onto the top of the Pokeball. Alright, so we're almost at the end. And we'll just slip stitch into our first stitch in black, and then we can just pull all of this through and just kind of trim off everything else. So there's that. Just neaten everything up. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll take the top of our Pokeball and then we'll just sew the button on about halfway, or where only half of it's on and the second half's out. That way it covers when the lid is on both the top and the bottom. So we'll work on sewing on the button next. So I've threaded my yarn needle with the thin black yarn, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our top of our Pokeball, and right where the color changes, we're going to take the button where the tail is sticking out to the right side and put that on so it's hanging off about halfway. And then we're just going to sew around the top half and just kind of get it so it'll just be hanging off a little bit. And I got some extra white coming off, and I'll get that here in a minute. But what we'll do is we'll just bring up the yarn and just kind of sew that on, so we're only sewing half of the button. And I think this is way more extra yarn than I was gonna need, but I kind of over guessed. I wanted to make sure there was more than enough. So we'll just come up and just go in and come out. And then once we've got the button on, we can just run the tail through the stitches along the inside and hide that. Okay, and then we'll come back in. And that'll keep the button on, and then just run the yarn through. So yeah, there was way more yarn than needed, so you can definitely go less than 36 inches. But like I said, when I was grabbing yarn, I was kind of guessing and trying to just make sure I had enough prepared. So let me work on getting that little extra white out of the way. And so here we go. We've got our button. Oh, and then we realize I got a couple of stragglers for tails here. And we've got our Pokeball. And so once we've got that completed, we're able to go ahead and start on the cute part, which is our Pikachu. And he's pretty small and doesn't take a whole lot to work up. The hardest part with working with him is his ears. I wish I could have found an easier way to do those, but trying to keep everything small and trying to keep it in proportion was a little hard. But we've got him all set to be made next, and then he fits pretty nicely into the Pokeball. And he'll be all set. So let's get started on making Pikachu next. Okay, let's get on to the cutest part of this project, which is Pikachu. And with that, we're going to start off with our bright yellow yarn. And we'll start off as usual, making a magic ring. And in that magic ring, we're going to crochet 6 single crochet. And there are increases and decreases, but because this little guy is so small, it goes really quick. So there's 3, 4, 5, oops, didn't get all my yarn on there. Okay, and 6. So I'll pull it tight, but again, like I always say, not too tight, because we have to do an increase from 6 to 12 in our next round. So we're going to increase in all 6 stitches to go from 6 to 12. And we got our first. So there's 4, 6, 6, 8, and for my last two stitches, I'm going to just go ahead and get the tail in there. And finally, we've got 12. Okay, and then we're just going to pull that tight. And we're going to do another increase, and that is going to bring us up to 18. And so we'll get ready to go from 12 stitches to 18 stitches. I've got my stitch marker in, and our pattern will be to increase in the first stitch and single crochet in the second. So we'll do an increase followed by a single crochet. Increase and single crochet. Almost done. And our final increase. And our final single crochet. Okay, so we've got these increases all done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 1 around all of these stitches together. Well, actually what I should say is the next 3 rows are just single crochet all the way around, but we'll do the first one together. So let's start off with getting the row work together. Just a single crochet in each of the stitches. And then what I'll do is I'll have you complete the second 2 rows on your own, and then we will meet back after those next 2 rows are done. And there we go. It is really humid today, so I am curious to see if it's gonna rain here soon. I am like, for the first time this year, all of a sudden I'm like, wow, heat. So it feels like my hands are kind of sticking to everything. Okay, so we've completed that round together, which is our 1, 2, 3, our 4th round we completed together, and I will have you complete rounds 5 and 6 on your own, and that's a single crochet in each stitch. And then once those are done, we'll meet back. Okay, we're all done with those 3 rows of single crochet. So we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 round, or we've got 6 rounds done. We're getting ready to start our 7th round, and that's a decrease round. So what we're going to do is we're going to decrease from 18 stitches down to 12. And I use the invisible decrease, but you can decrease however you would like to. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our first 2 stitches and crochet those together, and then do a single crochet, and that's our pattern. And how I do my invisible decrease is I go under the front loop of the first stitch, the front loop of the second stitch, and then I pull through those 2 stitches, so I've got 2 left on my hook, and then I pull through again, and then a single crochet. So my invisible decrease, and then a single crochet. But however works best for you, go right ahead and decrease whichever way is comfortable. So we've got a decrease and a single crochet, our final decrease, and a single crochet. And so that completes round 7. And next we're going to get ready to put in our safety eyes. And so I'll show that next. So I'm going to place my safety eyes onto the head of the Pikachu. And where I like to place mine is between rounds 5 and 6. And then I can see about 3 little spaces apart. So put the safety eye in the first stitch, count over 3, and then place the safety eye in the following stitch. So it's a total about 5 stitches that you're working with the safety eyes. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And that's between rows 5 and 6. However, this will give you an idea of what that looks like, and then you can place yours anywhere that works best for you, or go with a bigger safety eye, however you want this to look. It's your Pikachu, you gotta make him just the way you want it. But that's what I'm gonna do for mine. So we're going to take our safety eye, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's see, make sure I got that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So between 5 and 6, so I'll stick the first one in. And then I got 1, 2, 3. So I'll place this one here. Oops, maybe not. This one's a little feisty. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then here. Get that. And kind of give this a look over, see if that's working for me. And that looks good. So we'll just pop those backs on. Now if you're giving this to a small child, I know that they're safety eyes, but I never 100% fully ever trust them. So I always recommend, you know, maybe embroidering or just using some felt or anything else. Just I always worry that these things could pop off. But there we go. We got our safety eyes, and then we're going to do another decrease round, but we're going to decrease from 12 stitches to 8. And so we'll do that next. Okay, for this decrease round, we're going to do the same pattern. We're going to do our decrease and then a single crochet. And we'll do that all the way around for the same pattern, and that'll get us down to 8 stitches. So we've got our decrease, single crochet, and this little guy is small, so you're working on some really small areas here. Got our decrease, single crochet, decrease, and single crochet. And then what we can do next is put some stuffing into the head, and it just makes it a lot easier to hang on to. So I have a little bit of polyfill, and I'm going to just go ahead and insert that in. And you don't have to get it stuffed completely. You will have a chance to add more stuffing before Pikachu's completely finished. But right now, this makes it a little bit easier since you're working with such a small area just to hold on to. So I got a little stuffing in there just to kind of start getting his head shaped. And then what we're going to do next is, well, it'll be our final increase. And we're going to go from 8 stitches up to 12. And what that does is it just gives us that separation between the head and the body. And we will be working in the front loops only for the next round. But we'll get through that together next. So I've got everything ready to go, and we're going to go ahead and increase in the front loops only. And our pattern for our increase to go from 8 stitches to 12 is just a reverse of our decrease. So in our first stitch, going through just that first loop, we're going to increase, and then in our second stitch, we're going to single crochet just in those front loops for this round only. So we'll do our increase, and then our single crochet. Got our increase, get some more yarn, and single crochet. Go under that first loop for our final increase, and then we're ready for our final single crochet in that front loop only. And that's when we're done with just the front, working in the front loop only. For our next rounds, we're going just to work in the stitches as normal. And so what we're going to do for our next 3 rounds is we are going to single crochet 1 in each stitch, and we'll work through the first round together. So we're ready just to do some single crochets, and we'll just do 1 in each of the 12 stitches. And then again, I'll have you complete the next 2 rounds on your own, and then we'll meet back, and that is just about the end of the head and body, and then we'll get on to the little body parts, and we'll make sure we get some more stuffing added in. But there we go, just 1 in each stitch going through both loops. Okay, so I'll have you do 2 more rounds, and then we'll meet up at the end of those 2 rounds. So we're all done with those 3 rounds of just single crochet, and we're just going to add in some more stuffing. And now it's just getting to be a preference as far as how full you would like the head and body to be. And so there's no right or wrong amount of stuffing. It's just whatever works best for you. So right now I'm just kind of, I got plenty in the head, just kind of focusing on the body, and I'll stuff it somewhat, and then I'm gonna, right before we get it completely closed up, see if I want any more stuffing. Just kind of put it in there. And so what we'll do is we'll get it stuffed, and there will be a last chance to add any more, but this gets us a good start. And then what we're going to do is we're going to decrease basically until the bottom is all closed up, and adding stuffing as needed as we go. So let's go ahead and start decreasing, and we're not going to have any pattern. It'll just be decreasing until it's basically closed up, and we can just finish off with just minimal amount of sewing. So I'm going to do, for myself, 3 decreases. And I'm going to pop my hook out, and here's a chance to add a little more stuffing just to the body. I don't want to push too far because I've got the head pretty good, but I just want to get some more into the body. And then I'll do a couple more decreases. And then decide, oh, put some squeaky yarn again. Well, let me get, oh, that got all tangled up. All right, let me do that decrease one more time. Okay, and then I'm going to look at this, whoops, and just kind of play around and kind of squish them around and look and see. Yeah, I think I'm going to add just a little more stuffing in there, and actually what I think I'm going to do is just kind of take the end of this toothpick and just see if I can stuff some more in there. Maybe not. Maybe we'll just use the end of the crochet hook, and I'm always surprised just how much you can get in these things. Okay, and again, you know, it is not too big of a project. So if you just wanted to use extra yarn, you're more than welcome to do that too if you don't have any polyfill or anything you want to use. Okay, and so I've got that, and I'm happy with how much it's stuffed, so I'm pretty much just gonna try to decrease as much as possible. And I think I'm only gonna get like one more decrease out of this. Yeah, probably. I'll just cut that off and leave a little tail for sewing. Yeah, these are really cute. The only hard part is that I got everything so small. And you could always, you know, do things with a bigger hook size, or just, you know, make things a little bigger, whichever works easiest. But yeah, I was trying to make some small little items, and they're cute, but at times a pain to make. But there we go. Just kind of pull that, kind of squish him around a little bit, and got his head and his body. And so the next thing we're going to work on are the arms and legs. And I do want to prepare you, we are working with a lot of small parts. It's not impossible, but don't be surprised if you get a little frustrated, because it can be a little frustrating. But at the end, I think the end result is really cute and worth it. And I'm just realizing I did not make him stuff nearly as fat as this one, but that'll work out. So let's go on and start making the arms and feet. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make one of the hands. And now these are really small, so it's kind of frustrating there, but really easy. So we'll just make our magic ring. And this is for the hands. We'll end up making 2 of these, but I'll walk you through the first one. So we're going to single crochet 4 into the magic ring. And then we'll pull the tail closed. And then for the second and last round, we're just going to single crochet 1 into each of those stitches. Let's make sure I got through both loops. So there's 1, 2, and it kind of helps to bend your work a little bit and makes it a little easier to get to those stitches because it wants to curl in on itself. 3, and then 4, and then the last thing we'll do is just a slip stitch. And that is all it takes to make one of the little hands. So you just single crochet 4 into a magic ring, single crochet 1 into each of those stitches and slip stitch, and you're done. And so I'll meet back with you after the second hand has been made. So I've got the 2 little hands all finished in a length of yarn left for sewing on, and then where I sewed mine on are just kind of to the side of the safety eyes, and then I'm going to have us do the feet next, and they're a little more centered inwards, a little closer together where the arms are farther out, but you can go ahead and place yours anywhere. But as far as sewing these on, it only takes a moment. You can just get your yarn needle, and then I just come in right through the side. You can kind of go down between the neck and the body, go down 1 row, and then just over to the side. Just bring the arm through, and then just put some stitches all the way around to secure it on. You don't have to worry about any kind of stuffing for the arms. They're so small, they just don't have a need for it. But this will get a little arm put on, or whatever works best for your sewing. I know it can be kind of individual on how each person likes to sew on, but that's basically it. And then we'll just get the other arm sewed on and start on the feet. So I've got the second arm sewn on, and then we're ready to start on the feet. And the feet are easy as well. So we're just going to start off with our magic ring. We're going to crochet 4 into the magic ring. And then pull that closed. And then in the next round, we're going to increase to 6. Okay, to increase from 4 stitches to 6, we're going to increase in our first stitch. We will single crochet in the second stitch. Increase in the third stitch, and then single crochet in the final stitch. And so we are up to 6 single crochet, and then all we need to do in our final round is just single crochet 1 in each stitch. So there's 2, 3, 4, just kind of bend that around and make it a little easier to get to. 5, 6, and then just do a slip stitch. We're going to leave a length of tail for sewing, and then what we'll do is instead of using any kind of stuffing for the foot, we can just take our tail, whatever we have left over, and just kind of twist it up and place it right inside, and that's all it's going to take to do any stuffing. And then we'll just get our second foot made and then go ahead and get those sewn onto the body. To sew the foot onto the body, I start just kind of right about here and just go through. Just grab a little bit and then just kind of get it where the foot kind of sits right below the arm, and then it does come down to the bottom of the body a little bit, but then pretty much whatever way you want to go ahead and sew this on, and it just goes on pretty quickly too, much like the little hands do. There's not a whole lot of sewing, which makes me happy because that's one of my worst parts of making amigurumi is the sewing. It just never seems to look nearly as good as so many other ones I see on like Instagram. So we've got the first little foot on there. Gonna pull that tight, and then we'll come back after the second one's sewn on. So we've got the arms and legs on, and the next part we're going to work on are the ears. And I'll work with you through the first ear and then have you make the second one, but these can be a little frustrating because when we make our magic ring for the beginning of this, we're only going to crochet 3 into that, and then do an increase, and then right away do a color change. So it can be a little frustrating, but I'll work with the first ear with you and then have you work on the second. So we'll do that next. So I've got my black yarn, and that's what we're going to start with for the ears, and we're going to go ahead and make that magic ring. And the hard part with black is it's so hard to show in a tutorial because it's really hard to see. But we're going to go ahead and in our magic ring, we're going to crochet 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And then we'll pull that just a little bit. I mean, we're not even pulling it all the way around. When we put our first increase into the first stitch, it'll help pull it closed. But for right now, we've got 3 in our magic ring, and what we're going to do is increase from 3 to 5 and also do a color change. So I'm going to have the yellow ready, and we'll do that next. Okay, so bear with me on this one. What we're going to do is in our first stitch, we're going to do an increase, and I know it's hard to see. So we've got 1 and 2. Now I'm going to take my yellow yarn and get that ready for our color change. And in the second stitch, I'm going to do an increase. In the remaining stitch, I'm just going to do a single crochet and change color. So I'm going to pull through black and then pull through the yellow. And I know that's a lot to work with in a very small spot, but we've got our color change and we're up to 5 single crochet. And what we'll do next is we're just going to crochet 1 in each stitch with the yellow. So there's 1, and 2, 3. Let me just kind of bend this. We've got 4 and then 5. And from here it gets so much easier to complete these ears. So all we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 4 more rows, just 1 in each stitch, just 5 altogether. And so I'll do 1 more row with you. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so we've got a really good part of the ear done. And what I'll have you do is crochet, actually I'm going to have you, let's see, crochet 3 more rows on your own, and then just once you're done with those 3 rows, just do a slip stitch, and that's all it takes for the ear. And I'll meet you back after we've got the next 3 rows taken care of. So I've got the ear completed, and I've got quite a bit of the tail sticking out because I kind of just kept going around. So what I'm going to do with the tail, instead of using any stuffing, I'm just going to take this and just kind of stuff all of this into the ear and use that for my stuffing. And then what we'll do is we'll get this sewn on to the head of the Pikachu, and then just have you make 1 more ear and sew that on. Now with the ears, as far as sewing, it's just the same as putting on the arms and legs, but it's kind of up to you to decide how do you want the ears. Do you want them to stay straight up, or do you want them to kind of do a little further back and have them kind of have more of a flatter look? So it's kind of however you want to put your ears on. They do get kind of bent into the Pokeball because of size, so when you're putting it in, if you do have them sticking straight up, they do tend to get pushed down, but they pop right back up. So like I said, you can have them sticking straight up, or you can have that kind of a look where they're kind of on the back of the head, like maybe he's got angry ears like a cat. However you want to do that. So go ahead and get your ears sewn on wherever you would like, and then a second ear made and get that one placed, and then we'll work on the final body part, which is the tail. So we are on the final body part, and what we're going to work on is the tail. And the tail has both yellow and brown, and so we're going to start off with our yellow and start working through the tail, and then once we get down so far we're going to do a color change, and then with the brown we're going to leave a long tail for sewing and to make the stripes. So let's get started with making the tail. So we're going to start off with yellow, and we're going to make a chain of 5. So we'll start off making our slip stitch, which I do by going around my index finger once, then twice. Then I take the first loop, pull it over the second, and then remove the second loop, and then just put my hook right in. So we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now in order to crochet down the chain, we're going to do it in these back bumps. It's kind of like the spine. And so what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet starting from the second chain from the hook down those 4 remaining chains in the back bump. And this just gives it a cleaner look. So we've got 1, and it can be a little hard to get into those. So you don't want to make your chain too tight. There's 2. Three, and then the final one, which I know that one can be a little tricky because it's kind of loose on that last chain. 4. And so we've got the beginning of our tail, and what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to start working down this side, and we're going to start getting prepped to do a color change. So what we're going to do is single crochet 3 down this side and prep for the color change. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our brown yarn and we're just going to lay it over so we can crochet over it to kind of get it ready to do a color change. And so in our first stitch we're going to crochet 1, and our second stitch we're going to crochet 1. Oops, let's see if I can get through there. All right. And then in our third stitch we're going to do our color change. So I'm going to pull through the yellow at first, and then I'm going to pull through the brown. And so we're ready for the next row to be in brown. And what we're going to do is we're not going to do anything with like chaining 1. We're just going to turn, and we're going to skip the first chain, or I'm sorry, the first stitch, and then we're going to single crochet 1, and then we're going to single crochet 2. We're going to chain 1, and then in the first stitch we're just going to single crochet 1, and that's what our tail's going to look like. And now it does need cleaned up a little bit, but first what we're going to do is we're going to get a pretty decent amount of yarn, because we're going to use it for sewing and then those back stripes. And we'll go ahead and cut off the yellow that we still have, and then we'll just pull this through. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and use our yarn needle to get the yellow and the brown weaved in so it has a more clean finished look. So I put one of the yellow tails onto my yarn needle, and I'm pretty much just going to kind of slide it through the stitches on the tail just to kind of get it in through there. And so here's the first one, and then I'll just trim off that one, and then do the same with the second yellow tail. If I can get that one on there. Well, let me trim a little of that off and make it easier to get through the needle. And then what I'll do is I'll just kind of come through, same thing, just kind of weave it in there. And then trim that off. And then with the brown, there's not as much area to work with. So what we can do is we can just kind of pull that down and sew it into the body. So we'll just kind of come down through, there's like a little hoop right here. I'll just bring that through there, just kind of pull everything kind of nice and tight. And then for the tail, we can just take the short end, just kind of put it through the body a little, then weave it in. And then trim that off, just kind of squeeze the little body and it'll kind of tuck right back in there. And then with our long tail, what we'll do, and I know I'm positive I grabbed way too much tail for the sewing, but we'll just kind of come in and secure the tail on to the body. Let's see if I can, there we go. Just kind of sew it on the best that you can. I know there's not much to work with, but basically we're just securing it right onto the back of the little Pikachu. And then what we'll do is we'll come up about a row from the neck, and we'll go across, so we're in one stitch, and then we'll skip a stitch and go through here. So it's a total of 3 stitches. So we're coming out the first, we're going to go over the second and come in through the third, and then bring our yarn needle right down below, and then make a second little stripe on his back. And then just pull through. And so that gives him that little back stripe. And then just go through the body a few times with your yarn, just to kind of secure everything in place. And that is basically all the crochet part of the body. And your Pikachu, it's got all his little body parts. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to add his little red cheeks. Let me get the, there we go, kind of squish him around. And then his last part is his little signature red cheeks like we have on here. And I decided, just for cuteness, I just took some little red gemstone little rhinestones and just use some E6000 glue and just put those on. And again, if you're giving this to a small child, I wouldn't recommend this because they could just pick these things right off. But and always be careful. This stuff, I guess, is, from what I understand, pretty strong, and the fumes are not good for you. So to avoid like touching it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my toothpick and just kind of get some on there, kind of put it onto the rhinestone, and then just place the little cheek right on, and do that with this other one. And yes, you can definitely smell the fumes of this. So we'll just go ahead and put the second one on without having to touch anything. Even the small little container, whew, you can definitely tell you opened it. And while that one's drying, we'll just kind of scooch all of this out of the way and kind of look at the original one I had made. What always gets me is the same pattern, the same hook, and nothing I ever make ever seems to come out the same size or quite exactly the same. But each one has got their own personality and is definitely cute. And like I said, with once you've got your Pikachu, you can just pop him right in his little Pokeball, that's not a name, it's a Pokeball. And you've got yourself something that would make a really cute gift for a Pokemon fan, just something, you know, that's one of a kind. And it'll always be one of a kind because they always come out a little different each time. But I hope you enjoyed this review. I know it's lengthy and a lot of stuff to do with very minimal workspace as far as like with the magic ring with 3 single crochets in it. I know it's frustrating, but I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you were able to make your own little Pikachu and Pokeball. And if you do, I would love to see it. If you want to send me a picture of your completed work, I'll put up my Instagram information, and I'd love to see what you've done. And I will be planning on making some more smaller little Pokemon to fit into these balls. I know the starters, I'll try to get Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander, some more. That way, you know, if it's something people are interested in, more options to use with the Pokeball. Well, I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for sticking through this with me, and I hope you have a great day.